What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Shiv, and today we're going to be taking a look at my favorite plane to play in World of Warplanes, the IL-20. Whether you're a fan of ground attacks or not, you need to pay attention to this plane. And I am not even joking. This plane is the tip of the spear to your defeat. Alright, so when I first started playing the game, I did all the fighter stuff, but then the mission started telling me, hey, go take out some stuff on the ground. So I quickly made the decision, well, I'm going to go down the Russian line. And I suffered in the beginning for it. You know, the German line's obviously better in the beginning. But once you hit about tier 6, 7, it gets a lot better for the Russians. And at tier 8, it becomes completely one-sided. At tier 8, the Russians are able to pretty much dictate the flow of battle in such a way that it's pretty abusive. It's really abusive. When I play this, it's not unlikely that I get 10,000, 12, 18,000 combat points while playing this, while pushing almost 2k mastery at sometimes. Alright, so this plane is just downright abusive to the enemy team. Now, I said before that this plane will spell their demise, and that's the God's honest truth. This plane leads every single battle, alright? No other plane in this game can capture a mine solo in less than a minute. No other plane in this game can capture a command center by itself in about a minute. Alright? But this plane can. This plane is the ultimate ground attack machine at tier 8. So guys, if you ever see a player playing this plane, focus the hell out of him. But pay attention to what you're about to learn. Alright, so the IL-20 has a great amount of survivability. When completely skilled out as well as upgraded, can get up to 1,942 health. That is huge. Its gun armament is rocking 1682, mostly because of these 57 millimeters. Which, by the way, guys, those 57 millimeters can hit you. So sometimes coming from the front is not your best bet. And if they hit you in the engine or in the fuselage, it's going to hurt a lot. Wings, tail, good possibility it's going to hit a flap or an elevator and not do nearly as much damage, but it's still going to hurt. Alright, it's still going to hurt. Though I'll tell you right now, the muzzle velocity of these shells is pretty crap, so they're going to be shooting quite a bit and probably missing quite a bit. If you are a ground attacker and there's an IL-20 on your tail, you're going to want to move left and right a lot unless your rear gunner try to basically mitigate the hell out of them. Because if they get a clean shot on you, they're going to wreck your life. 2 good salvos hitting you a mid-plane from this will do about 500-600 damage. Easily. Easily. And outside of another IL-20, there's not that many planes that could take that much damage. Yeah, sure, you can say the ME-265 and 329s could possibly take that much, but still, that's a significant chunk of their life that they just lost, and it's not something that they're going to be overly fond of. And, of course, because it is such a large caliber shell, the chance of critical damage happening is quite significant. Alright? And yeah, guys, these cannons will one-shot most fighters. Most of the time. Alright. Now, the IL-20 is an ordnance workhorse. As you can see here, we've got these 12 rockets, we got these 2 big bombs, and this plays into a concept strategy that I call ordnance economy, alright? As you play this game, you start realizing you don't always need to spend all your ordnance to destroy something. You start realizing every structure in the game has a certain amount of hit points. You start mentally calculating that in your head, alright? It's not something you need to write down or anything of that nature. But you start kind of figuring it out. And when you start counting it all up, you start realizing, hey, you know what? I can spend my ordnance in a different way and actually get a lot more versatility out of it. Like I said before, this plane can solo cap mines, alright? Give you an example here. So you got your mine, you're flying it. You gun down the smokestacks on that center spire on the mine. You gun those down. Then you throw some of your gunshots at the cooling towers and the silos on the side, and then you start throwing rockets. You throw one at each of the silos as well as the cooling tower, and then you throw about one on each of the 2 big buildings. Probably you're going to want to throw 2 on each of the buildings there. And right there, you've just used 8 rockets and a lot of gunnery. And you will take out that center area. And that center area is worth about 60% of a capture on the mine. And look at that. You still have 4 rockets, and you have your bombs left over to go and take out the secondary targets. Now, secondary targets on a mine normally look like buildings with those little silos around it, which can be slightly annoying depending on the angle of approach that you're firing at. But you could drop 1 bomb on each of those, and it'll pretty much kill it. All right, you may have to use a rocket on one of them or some gunnery to finish it off, but you can actually do this in under a minute, hit all 3 of those points, and cap the mine out by yourself. And this is one of the greatest strengths of this plane. It doesn't need support. It doesn't need other people to come and help it capture a zone. It can do it on its own. All right, so because of that, this plane is just downright disgusting. But the ordnance economy game is going to be huge, all right? And it's going to take a little bit of time for you guys to really figure this out. But once you do, it really makes a lot of sense. All right, so let's look at the upgrade pathing that you're going to want to go through here. Okay, so you want to get to the Fab 500 bombs right away. You're probably going to have your 82s from the previous. That's fine. So get to here. Once you got those done, now you have to look at one of 2 things. You can grind up for the 57s, which isn't bad, but that's a really long grind. I would recommend going with the airframe first. That way you have the survivability. Your 23s you're gonna get early on. They're not bad. The upgraded ones, obviously, much better. But once you get to these 57s, this is like the creme de la creme. I wouldn't bother with the engine. Just not worth it, to be perfectly honest with you. Save the experience for the 40 grind. All right. So let's talk about the equipment we have chosen here. So we've got the improved covering, we got the additional armor plates, we've got the reinforced airframe. Very, very defensive, right? We're trying to pop up that survivability up to 1942. It makes a lot of sense here. All right, and because of that, we have to really take a look at our crew skills because that's going to be crucial. All right, so here we've got our pilot. All right, so the first skill we took with the pilot was Protection Expert. 40% more on the armor plates, the reinforced airframe, and the improved covering. So that gives us 28% more life, as well as 20% or 28% reduction of criticals and protection for our pilot and rear gunner. That made a lot of sense to me. That's like a huge skill for this plane right there. The next skill we ended up taking was Demolition Expert because, you know, bombs, rockets made a lot of sense. So, yeah, you don't really need it, to be perfectly honest. True, you don't. But there are going to be times where you're not going to be able to drop that perfectly centered bomb, and sometimes it's going to be slightly off. And having that extra 15% blast radius can make a world of difference, okay? As well as sometimes your rockets aren't going to be that accurate, and having that extra 15% on the blast radius, which, to be perfectly honest, isn't really that much, but could actually affect things, all right? So keep that in mind. And the last skill we took for the pilot was Battle Tested. Now, this one, I sat and looked at for quite a bit of time, and then I started realizing something. Look, if your pilot does get knocked out and you're not running consumables like myself, then you're kind of in a really bad situation, you know? Your main guns don't hit worth a damn at that point. You know, the accuracy, like one shell goes this way and one shell goes down, it's like what the hell? All right, that kind of sucks. And your rockets are also going to suffer the same problem. So that's a really big problem. So, yeah, I figured, you know, a little bit more protection on my pilot might make a little bit of sense. But you also get the added benefit of retaining 25% controllability when certain control surfaces get damaged. Well, we're kind of a slow-moving slug in the air, all right? Our maneuverability is pretty crap, so losing any of that can be really detrimental to our health. So, again, this made a little bit of sense. It fell in line with the whole defensive combat doctrine that we are looking to play. Now, here comes the upgrade point that people have argued with me unsuccessfully since I started playing this plane. A lot of the guides that you're going to see out there advocate going for a DPS build. And a DPS build looks something like armor to battle expert to eventually the precision gunner. I disagree with this. I disagree with this on so many different points. Personally, I'd rather have the quick reflexes. The armor, the burst length, doesn't really apply to this gun, considering it's pretty much a rapid fire 23, so that made no sense. But, and we also do a lot of manual gunning with it, so yeah, quick reflexes, getting that aim on target, especially when you're doing manual aiming, actually is really good, because it actually sights in a lot quicker. Alright, point number one. And again, yeah, Battle Expert is great because you get that greater range, and if we're using the rear gun stabilizer, which if you're going to go down that route, you should take that over the armor plates, would allow you to start hitting targets well over 1 kilometer away. So if like people are realizing, oh shit, I need to get the hell away from this thing, boom, 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 you should be able to track it down. It'll give you a lot more defensive range on the rear, but only in a very limited scope, alright? Keep that in mind. So yeah, that is one way you could go about it, but I instead went down the defensive fire, and again, looking at how we're looking to play this and how we've set everything else up on this whole defensive aspect, this made perfect sense. There is no other skill I have found in the game that can completely negate a lot of what your opponents do. 33 or 30% reduction from your enemy on any target that my rear gunner is shooting at. So if I got somebody on my tail, I'm opening up the rear gunner and I'm shooting at him, I'm reducing their damage on me by 30%. That makes so much sense to me in this plane. Alright? It really does. And there have been many times where I've had heavy fighters, I've had fighters or other ground attacks on my tail, and my defensive fire has saved me quite a bit. Alright? When you're reducing the damage output that your opponents have to a point where you can easily just survive it because you have such a high health pool, you completely decimate them. You really do. And a lot of people in this game, for some odd reason, keep wanting to stick to my tail and just die. Okay, keep doing that while I'm over a point that I'm trying to capture. Thank you very much for the free capture points. It's great. It's great. Not to mention the fact that it also negates the hell out of air defense fighters that are attacking you while you're attacking a point. That's like the big takeaway there. Totally fucks with air defense fighters. And I love that. Love it. So, personally, I go with the defensive fire. I think it makes perfect sense. You may not agree. That's fine. But at least give it a try. Alright? If you've got this amount of experience for your rear gunner, give it a try. And the last skill we took was endurance. And some of you might go, it's like, why don't you just save it up and then maybe get the armor and then eventually you can go into here, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, that's an idea, but here's the thing. Alright? Our pilot has a 48% chance, or 48% reduction in getting critical on him, but our rear gunner only had 28%. Well, this actually put them at even. And considering how reliant we are on our rear gunner for protecting our ass and mitigating damage, it made a lot of sense to actually have this. It really did. So, personally, I'm okay with this. I think this is a really good choice. It's a smart play, and I really like it. Alright, so that's pretty much the build. That's all the stats and concepts with this plane. But you know what? We could talk a good game, but let's show a good game, shall we? Let's get to this. Alright, so here we are. Starting the game, we always take a look at the map to plan out where we're going to go. For me, I'm looking at this and going, I know the bots are just going to go and grab the garrison. Me running to it makes absolutely no sense, because then my plan would be going garrison to their airfield, and that would be running right into the enemy, and that's not very good for my own survivability. So instead, we're going to go and take the airfield, because that actually made a lot more sense to me. Alright. So, we're going to use a little bit of our boost here to close that distance. Like I said before, we're very, very slow and unwieldy, but you notice here, we're getting up to 485. That's not bad. It's not too bad. And we're burning all there, and we decide, okay, we're going to pull back a little, rebuild this up. And here I am just kind of range checking with the 57s. Boom, we're starting to get some hits there. And trying to hit some of this A because that's kind of a priority. And here we go. just taking out all these soft structures, these little houses we can one-shot, a tower we can one-shot. We're going to start putting in rockets on the air traffic control center here. And a little bit of a wasted rocket there, that's fine. I kind of mess up right here, and I leave a shack, that's okay. Alright, so we got some armored shacks here. We're going to drop a bomb, take that out real quickly. And you notice we're playing this really fast and loose on the ground. We're not doing any of that slow stall fighting that you see a lot of people do. I'm not a really huge fan of that. The slower you're moving, the more likely you are to be shot by things that you don't need to be shot by. Alright, and there we go. We captured the air base. We're going to circle back through. You notice we didn't use that much ordnance, only 4, because we're playing the ordnance economy game. And we're back up to full health. And right now I'm looking at my mini-map, and it's looking like center is about to have some problems. Now, because we didn't spend all of our ordnance there, we're going to have some ordnance to be able to use on taking the center. That seems like a good idea. Now, they captured the middle, so I'm looking at this and going, well, by the time I get there, it'll be ready to cap, and we might be able to get this to the point where the moment it becomes ready to be captured again, we can start engaging, and that's kind of what we're going for here. Now, I know this map well enough to know that if I go through this little tunnel here, it lines me perfectly up with a bunch of soft targets. And boom, there we go, and I'm able to start this assault right away. Just start gunning them down, and there's a center structure point right there. This is actually quite important. And so we're putting in our rockets, and I wasn't sure if the rockets actually took it out, and I wasted the bomb there. Bad shit. Failed the economy game. I know. Alright. So we're just beating up as much as we can there, taking out some of those AA, and you can see that AA is firing fast and furious at us. It is just not happy. We've got the soft targets, which are slightly higher priority, because clearing this out will allow us to capture the base quicker, which is an important thing. And boom, somebody took out a fighter, or actually took out AA there to get the cap. So good on them. Alright, so now I could go and try to take the other air base, or I could go and take the garrison that they just captured. I am of the sound belief that you should always take back anything your opponents ever try to grab. Simply do the put. If you're constantly just going after the stuff that you can capture that's not being captured yet, it kind of makes no sense, because then somebody on their team can easily do what I'm about to do. So if you're constantly attacking everything that your opponents have just grabbed, you're putting them on the defensive. They're going to have to invest resources into defending these things, and it splits up their forces, and that made a lot of sense. Not to mention the fact almost my entire team was heading to the airfield, and my contribution as a slow-moving ground attacker would have been minimalistic. Alright. So we're going to come in, we're going to try to snipe out these AA towers to give us a little bit more protection as we're coming through. It's not nearly as needed, but it's just smart gameplay. And we're going to take out these soft targets. We're not even zooming in. We can do this pretty much by hand. Many times in this plane, you're going to think that zooming in is a good idea. No, it's not. It'll actually screw you up more than anything else. It's just habitual for me, unfortunately. Alright, dropping bombs on one of the primaries that you will want to use coordinates on. These little barrack shacks here. And dropping bomb here. And ladies and gentlemen, that is air superiority. You'll notice that it didn't take us that long to get it, and we led a lot of that aggression to do that. This plane can do these dirty things to the enemy team, and it does it quite nicely, I might add. Alright. So checking with the rear gunner to see how high up that guy was. Was he a threat? No, he's not.
Victory is in sight.
Alright, so I'm heading back to the airbase here, going for the repair, but it's not really going to matter because we just took out the enemy pretty much piecemeal. And look at that. Quick victory, ladies and gentlemen. We were first place. We had 9,000 combat and 910 mastery. That's pretty damn good. So yeah, that is the IL-20. It's a great plane. I've had some great success with this plane. I have broken 20,000 combat points with it. I've gotten 1,875 mastery points with it. As a max, I've hit like 4 medals in one game with it. And when I say medals, I mean things that give you the tokens, alright? So, yeah, this plane is just downright insane in terms of strategic value for your team. It may not be as glorious or action-packed as a fighter may be, but guys, when you want to win, accept no substitute. Well, anyway, that's going to be all for this video. I hope you like it. If you'd like to support these types of videos, leave me some love. Give me those upvotes, those likes, and all that other stuff. If you haven't followed yet, go ahead and hit that follow. If you got any comments about the plane or anything else, go right ahead, leave it down below. Till next time, this is Shiv saying stay safe, have fun, may orange juice bless you. I'm out.